I was thinking, Lucy made her first pictures. I Love Lucy, the series, started around 50-51. And about 5 years ago, I read in either a magazine or probably the Old Age Journal or something like that, that this guy who never knew her wrote a wonderful article saying, "I still love Lucy." And I think that is proven really true. And I still love Lucy, and so do all of you. All you have to do is watch her in the picture. And so today I thought there are a lot of things that you see in the paper about her, but maybe I could tell you a few things that wouldn't go into the paper. And Mildred, you give me the signal when it's too long. Not yet. Okay. But to get serious, she was something else. She was the consummate artist. People didn't know that. People thought, gee, did you watch Lucy last night? How she ad-libs and how she did this and that. Lucy was not that kind of a person. She had to be on time. She had to know her part straight. And what people didn't know, and they would talk about all these little ad-libs or pratfalls she took, when you opened her script book, there was little instructions that she had written herself. And they were like, don't wink the right eye at this spot because there's a slash in the dress and they'll see your leg, or whatever it was, she had thought out, and nobody would change it because she was a masterpiece herself. She just had that right intuition and lots of sweat. She worked hard. And when she got up there and everybody said, look, she's slipping again, that was all determined, and it wasn't in the script. There's a word for it. What's the word again? Something. Most actors learn their script. That's the words, and they learn the motions. That's the motion. But Lucy lived both those things. When the script said do this, she was there. When she got on the stage, she not only knew the words and the action, she knew everything she was going to do, and it always worked out. And she had a great cast of writers, and Desi, for all his problems, was good on the business end, so she had no worries at all. As a matter of fact, she died, I think, the second richest woman in the world. And I tell you how that all happened. I was at ABC in charge of program sales. And all of a sudden, I got an offer from an advertising agency. They were the biggest in the world at that time, to come over and handle their big-time shows, the shows they made a lot of money on. And so I went to an agency somebody was from Rochester and Buffalo, Batten, Barton, Durston, and Osborne. And they had the top 3 shows in the world, along with the U.S. Steel Hour, Armstrong Circle Theater. Everything was there. And they had carved out for me the top 3 shows in America at that time. Lucy, the greatest comedian you'll ever see in your life. Believe me, she is that great. And all of a sudden I'm at this agency, and it was a good job. So by the end of the day I had it, and the phone rang, and I said, this will be the last call. And I heard, hello, Aaron, this is Lucy. Now, I knew it couldn't be Lucy Ball because stars don't call you themselves on the phone. You go through the secretary, she goes through the agent, and so on and so forth. So I said, yeah, what do you want? Who is this, Amy or Mamie? And she says, Aaron, this is Lucy, Lucille Ball. And it dawned on me, geez, maybe it could be Lucy. Maybe she was, and she said, look, I just checked you out, buddy, and I found out you had some great credentials, and I've told CBS, our parent network, that I want you. And I said, oh, I'm glad you're the one who did it. They had mentioned that I would handle the show. She said, yes, and I want you to come out here as soon as you can. We got to make plans for the year. And besides, she said, make plans for the year, and I want you to meet my new husband. She had just married a guy by the name of Gary Morton. I called Mildred and said, would you like to go to California? And by the time I hung up, she was out at Kennedy Airport already. Lucy had said, and I want you to come because I want to have a little party for you. She said, just a small, intimate thing. And it was, and we got in the room, and the phone rang right away. Hello, Aaron? Thank God you're here. Come as soon as you can. Don't get all dressed up. So I got ready, and we went. She had a modest little home, I think next to Jack Benny or something like that on the street. She greeted us at the door herself. She introduced us to some of the Hollywood people she had invited, not many, and she introduced me to her new husband. And it was wonderful because she served us herself. I'm telling you these things just to say how amazing it was and what a real gal she was. She had a tough life around 16 to 18, but from then on, she got out to California, had done some B pictures, and they were not great pictures. They just went along. She held her own, and suddenly people recognized this talent for humor that she has that is untouchable. How many minutes have I gone, Mother? Okay. Some of you people say, tell us more.
Later.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do, because let me just finish the party, and then I'm done. And when I get you home.
I'm going home.
Just to finish this section, because there's another section coming up, is there, General?
Absolutely.
Okay. She said, I want to talk to you, come on out to the pool. And I went out, and we talked, and I'm standing here with Lucy, who towered over me, incidentally, and had legs that went from here. They brought rain, they were so high. And she was beautiful and piercing blue eyes, and she says to me, Aaron, I'm so glad you came, and I'm so glad you met my husband. What do you think of him? Isn't he wonderful? Well, now, how was I going to say? No, Lucy, you're all wrong. He wasn't wonderful. But that's how my first day with Lucy got off. And it was, as far as television goes, she led me into the greatest years of my life. And all right, I'm through. And
Waiting for the car, and the doorman came and said, Mrs. Beckwith, and I said, yes, your car is here. I went out, and there was a big black Rolls Royce, and I got in and just went along. That night, Hilda called again. She said, we had such a good time today. I want you to come out again tomorrow. And I said, okay. So the next day I went down and I stood outside then, and a green Rolls Royce pulled up for me. The doorman, by then, his eyes widened. And the third day, a tan Rolls Royce. And I got in all 3 times. And I said to Aaron that night, they didn't know me then, but now I'm sure they all think they know my profession.
She was younger. But it's the truth, and she must have been good at it.
That's my story.
Just,
Was Groucho Marx, who was doing for Lever Brothers, the same company I told you who made whisk and all that, who was doing the question thing, the $24 or, well, the most you could win was something like 58.
$64.
Oh, $64, right. My tactic with the bees, pay little attention to them. Because if they're pros, like Lucy and Groucho and Red Skelton, they don't want anybody coming in. And they don't trust the New York guys. And I was always stationed in New York. I would move to California. And I get a call, and is something going on? Am I being booed out of here?
Marky's not paying attention to you, you know?
You have a way with that.
Marky.
Remember Edna's dog?
Anyhow, dogs aside, I get a phone call, Groucho. Yeah, oh, hello, I hadn't seen him yet. And I'd been with the company maybe 6 months at this time, and he was my responsibility. But I wasn't going to screw up anybody, especially myself. So I knew he wanted to be alone, and all of a sudden he says, hey, Beckwith, I want to come east. And I thought maybe you had something for me to do, which is another way for them to get a free trip. You know, they can write it off on their income taxes business, even if he just goes to see his grandfather. And I said, we'd be delighted to have you. He was the #2 show in the country. And he said, all right, I'm coming in at some time. And I said, where are you staying? Well, Groucho was a funny guy. When he was first getting started in the business, used to stay at the Astor Hotel, which was almost a flop house on Times Square. His dressing room was like a nail in the wall, you know. He'd hang his pants up on the wall, and he was ready to go. And I said, all right, when are you coming? And he told me, and I said, I'll pick you up tomorrow. I have arranged a luncheon at Lever Brothers, and they're bringing in all the vice presidents, and we'll meet there. Well, they aren't going to get too wise guy, are they, you know? No, Groucho, and I'll be sitting there, and I know them. So the next day, I go to pick them up at the Astor Hotel, and you give them all the same treatment, a limousine. You know, especially it comes out of the company's pocket, and they're glad to pay it. That's a great way to keep a client. So I tell the guy, wait wherever you can near Times Square, and I go up to meet him. And it's, you know, long hallways they had, long hallways, and they had all kinds of rooms, single rooms, double rooms, rooms where the bedrooms and stuff were upstairs, you know, duplexes, I think they call it. And I'm walking down the hall wondering, you know, am I looking right? Am I doing right to meet this guy? And I hear somebody singing. This is actually how it happened. And the voice is coming out down the hall, and as I get near it, I see the door is open. So I knock on the door, and voice says, "Is that you, Beckwith?" You know how he talked with the cigar and everything. And I said, "Yep." He said, "Come on in." And I hear the guitar playing and a very good voice singing. And I walk in, and he doesn't get up, you know, with his head, he motions. I just sit in the seat, and he's playing, and he's playing. And I start making a few remarks. I'm not getting very far, but I'm making these remarks. And finally, I said, "Geez, Groucho, you're singing away. Where do you find time?" He had just come out with a book, was the real reason he wanted to get to New York, to exploit his book. He had just come out with a book, and he had just made a big picture, a big hit, and some other things. And I knew he was going to be busy, and I said, "Well, geez, I never heard you sing before." He said, "Well, you don't know what you're missing," you know, some crap like that. And but I liked him right away, and fortunately, he didn't throw me out, so I knew I was getting along. And he played, and he kept playing this guitar, and he played it very well, and he picks it like a Spanish guitar and everything. I said, "Geez, I didn't know you played, and I certainly didn't know you sang." He said, "Of course I sing." I said, "Well, you never sing in your pictures. You're never available for commercial singing or something like that." I said, "How can you do it? When do you practice?" So he says, "You see this apartment?" And there's steps up. He says, "My wife is upstairs. And pretty soon I'm going to yell up and say, 'Are you ready, darling?' And if she says, 'I'll be right down,' I know I got a half hour to practice." Those were his exact words. He said it. I said, "You can," you know, he says, "That's the truth. That's how you live with her." And that was my introduction. I took him over to lunch in the limousine, and he handled himself pretty well. He was, I don't want to say communist, he was very socialistic in his views, and fortunately nobody got upset by it. But he wasn't afraid to say what he felt was right. And to me, he was a good guy, and I didn't see him again for months, so it worked out.
Aaron, tell him the story about Dick Powell. That
Oh.
would be interested in.
Do you remember Dick Powell?
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
Did I tell you these stories?
Not Dick Powell.
Mildred, this is ruining our chances of coming back next year. We got no more stories to tell.
Yeah,
I'm in. I don't know about you.
Oh.
Just to talk about Bell.
Oh.
You're just a guest speaker.
Oh.
Walking up.
Where do I walk? That was wonderful.
Very nice.
And what is
So you're for the Jamestown girl. Tanner's our catcher. You go ahead.
Throwing out a second pitch will be Mildred Beckwith, 91 years old and former girlfriend of Babe Ruth.
There you go. All right, girl. Wonderful. This is Tanner Rogers, our catcher.
Nice to meet you. Good luck today.
Thank
I
you
hope
so
you win.
much. Thank you very
This
much.
is for me?
That's for you to keep. Game
Oh.
ball. Got a little scuff now. You keep
Oh,
it.
that's wonderful. Thank
guys.
you.
Hey, I'll walk you off, man. Here, I'll take my arm. I'll walk you right off.
I like this the best.
Hello to some of my friends who braved the weather and braved watching this picture, and the officers of the organization for inviting me, and especially Greg It cost me a lot of money in phone bills, but other than that, it's fine. But I want to tell you, I'll only take a minute for it. I am so excited.
Aaron, could you use the microphone a little bit more, maybe?
Does it work? Hello? I am so excited about being here, honestly, because of all the places I have talked about this show, I've never been into a place where I showed the picture and talked like Jamestown. Because right here in this place were people that I talked about in the picture. Right here were kids just like you, your age. When I came to ABC with the idea of doing this as a children's picture, because you are the ones who are going to save this world, you are the ones who are going to tolerate people and friendships, make friendships, which is what it's about, which I did in my own humble way. It was the first picture I ever made, and I was lucky, as they told you, to win quite a few awards with it. So let's look at the picture, and I thank all the parents for coming, but I want you kids to watch it, you guys, to watch it carefully, because I'm going to ask questions at the end. And you want to look good, don't you? So let's go on with the picture.
Safe to come out now. Harriet, we're home.
Come on now, all of you. Step foot on Pennsylvania. Put yourself there. Don't go breaking those legs the first day you got a chance for freedom.
Don't be tired.
Oh, let's go. Good to see you. Thank you.
He's here in the town. I saw him.
Well, don't be afraid to tell me, Benji. Was a man in town asking the people if they'd seen any runaway slaves. Is that it? But we ain't gonna fade away, Benji. None of us. Just tell us.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he say there was any money for the people who told on us?
$5 for each of you.
They've raised the price. Generous.
Be the bounty hunter, all right. He'd pay more for a dog, he would.
How'd he find us? He smells his reward. Brother, he'd follow us to Canada to get it. He's more bloodhound, that man. But we didn't come this far to have anybody take us back now. Don't mean to cause you any trouble. But we can't wait. Better leave now.
Ephraim?
Benji, here. There's that the man.
That's him.
Right, good.
You!
Benji.
Mr. Dudley.
Yes.
My name's Folsom. I'd like to visit with you a minute.
You're welcome, yes, sir.
I made a film, the first film I ever made, myself. And I sold it. ABC said they'd give me the money. It wasn't much, but it started, it was the first film. They were so surprised. They're starting a show to get the kids who would come home from their mothers were working and the fathers were working. What do they call them? Latchkey kids, right. And I figured, geez, something's got to be done. And I was a bug on history. And I went over to ABC, and they said, all right, they give you some money to find a writer and get started. And they give you, I think, $7,500, which might have been the union fee. And I would talk to these writers until I picked a guy to write it. And I went to Canada. It was a picture called Follow the North Star, which is right to do with what you're doing here now. Probably an old one.
It's called Follow the North Star.
Yeah.
And what's the premise?
The premise is a corny story. I'm after the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And ABC is after trying to build up that afternoon audience. And I said, you don't do anything in history. One of the most exciting times nobody knows about, which was follow the North Star. Follow that star up north to freedom. Pardon me. And it's so exciting for kids. And I'll make kids the focal point of it, because I had a firm belief then. I'm a big believer in tolerance. Maybe because I'm Jewish and I've seen so many heartaches from people ignored or hurt because they are. And remind me when this is all over to tell you the story of how Cy Goldman came to Jamestown.
Sure.
I sent him here. And they kind of liked the idea, and I went to work on it, and I said to the writer, I want a play between two kids. And it's simple. It's the old story. We did the slaves under Harriet Tubman, whose name had never been on TV before, working their way up north. And they stop at this home, the conductor's home, and hide, and they're almost caught, and they're having these experiences, and which gave me a chance to set the thing. And all of a sudden a kid comes running in, the conductor's son, and he said, the bounty hunter's in town, and how much he's offering for everybody. And he's going to help his father and so forth. His father says, no, you're staying here with us. And he appeals to Harriet Tubman, which gives me a chance to bring all that stuff in. And Harriet Tubman says, no, you help your father. Anyhow, the kid is left behind. Harriet and the blacks are on their way to Canada, because that's where freedom is. And I tell you, I was all goosebumps when I had done research on it, but when you right here were telling me about holes where they dug holes in the skin, and you make a damn good speech. So the more I got into it, the more they liked it. And it was at the time I told you I was in business for myself, and I had no money and no cigarettes, we'll say. The story was the white boy escapes that night, not escapes, he runs away. He's going to find the little black boy whose mother was there and who got separated from his mother, and he knows she knows they are going to send him to another place or kill him for trying to escape. And they killed the whites as well as the blacks. See, it's such a compelling story, and nobody ever does anything about it. So I went up to Canada, and I made a deal with them. I'm just giving you some of the mechanics of the an unheard of deal. I gave it to this producer up there, a guy rather, who owned the Bassett family. They were the second richest family in Canada. First were the Eatons, then came the Bassetts. And fortunately, he liked me. And so I could do whatever I want within reason. But he had the things I needed that cost money. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the rights to Canada. And you've got 5 TV stations or something like that. You can play it there for as long as you want it, no charge. But let me run my costs up at your place, use your studios and so forth, which I did. And the show came out much better than I thought it would. And I went back to ABC and I said, come up here, see it yourself, then give me the money to put live music in it, because I was going to play old records. Things were new. I mean, nobody was doing that then. And sure enough, they gave me, I don't know, like $20,000. And there I am recording music with the guy. He knew what he was doing. I didn't. But it was quite an experience for me. Geez, I didn't know what the hell the music is. And I had never made film before. This, you can take this off right away and see a picture. But with film, you had to meet every morning, go through what they call the dailies. And I had to prove to Canadians were very nationalistic at that time. They didn't like American producers because they felt they should be doing the work. Well, I got the money, and so and the New York Times gave it a rave review. I didn't expect it. And I had a guy in it with me because not having any money, and even though I bonded the thing, I got a bond in case anything happened, ABC would be paid back. He was head of Paramount Television, much bigger than little Aaron Beckwith in his office. And once the picture got out and got successful, and everybody gave it great reviews, he wasn't interested in the money. He had a studio to take in, and it was a nice gesture. I told you, along the way, people have all helped me. And he says, the film is yours. I signed, what is it called, a quick claim?
Right.
I'm not trying to be too bright, I just don't remember.
Well, that's right,
that I had all the rights to it, or any of the losses. It was so successful that ABC, now this is 40 years ago, ABC played it again the same week. For those who couldn't see, big announcements, see it again Friday. Then I gave a guy the rights to sell it internationally, Europe, and he sold it in every country except Israel, which surprised me because I was sure that was going to be his first sale.
Sure.
But we sold it to the Arabs and everything. And the oil companies buy films like that and show them to their employees. But as I say, it was 40 years ago, different world. And that saved me. It gave me some good money, and I sold it successfully for years through I think I gave him 35% or 50% of whatever we got. Well, whatever we got was on the plus side for me. Didn't have to have an office, didn't do anything. He would send the sales thing. So that kept me alive when I first, that and a few other things, when we moved to Florida. But I won an Emmy with it, too.
Congratulations.
And the Catholic Church, of all people, were so taken with this film on tolerance, because in the end, the story that I wanted and came out beautifully was the black boy he was trying to save hated him, because all blacks hated whites, and still do to a great extent, now that I'm an expert on race relations. And the white boy said to the black boy, you can hate me, do whatever you want, but I'm taking you home to your mother. Well, when he got home, the mother was already in Canada, and the kid gave those great lines, you know, stuff like, it's so not so surprising he couldn't talk that much, but he said that you're the best friend I ever had. And that's what I want the kids to remember. And I've gotten letters. Mildred and I sit there, I've told you this, but it's so true, where we cry from these kids who now say, so-and-so who bullied me at school is now my best friend. Mother inviting me to mass with her, you know, geez, go ahead. But the church made me television humanitarian worldwide for that year.
What year was it?
You know, people keep asking me. We moved to New York in '50. It was around 55, I'd say. It's a long time ago, and I had no more costs after. But what happened is, after so many years, film got tired. I don't care how good it is. And I put it in mothballs, took it back from the distributor, put it in mothballs, and they started National Black History Month or something. And I took it out of it. Well, the schools, I wouldn't charge the schools. I've charged always for the film. But I wouldn't charge the schools for a simple reason. Even though we needed money, I had made my money on it. But I didn't want anybody telling me, you're making money on the blacks or something like that. I'm the boss of the film. I play it when I want to. Now I have found my most receptive audience is on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades. Well, the kids have not been changed yet.
Right.
Their minds are still fresh. When I got into the 8th grades, I noticed they were already working with gangs and stuff. I'm not strong enough to take all of them on. I can only try what I want. And the film is still, every once in a while, I've had such great success. I'll give you some letters. I found some here. I'm getting ready to pack up and go. And you read these letters from kids. It's just phenomenal. And the teachers got somebody they can write to, meaning me, and thank me for what I've done. that they've never had anything. Are you Catholic?
No.
Well, I thought you were, but I will.
Will be if you want me to be today.
Well, let's say you're Catholic today. Well, I was just going to say, strong as they are and rigid as they are about their, and I don't mean to fight them on that, this thing has grabbed them too, because a mother is a mother, and when her kid comes home and says, I want so-and-so to come over here and play with me. Little songs, now we play duets together and stuff. So that's the happiness I got out of it. I'm telling this to you because it sounds like bragging, and I guess maybe it is. But I could take that film out if I were a young man, stick it under my arm, and do what I first did in this business, sell it. It's no longer a rerun, it's like a brand new film. Sell it all over the country and make a living fortune. But I couldn't stand up under the thing. And I just want to keep it. It's my baby. So in Palm Beach County, I show it. Sometimes it's too far away, and I turn them down. And I think I told you in return, they ask me, well, what can they do for me? And I say, well, give me a T-shirt with your school on. This is like for the lottery. I got a closet full of shirts that say St. Vincent's or Public School 48. I'm going to get a little problem now, I think. The war is all to that. But I notice Harry Belafonte is building a place in Miami that he's calling the Follow the North Star Museum. And they're all picking up that name, which they never used before. But I own this film, and where I did feel badly is I made a list of things that were so exciting. Buffalo Bill, Panama Canal, all those things, the Canadian Pacific, with the Chinaman clinking.
Oh, yeah.
But the guy who was the program director at ABC and was pushing the show, when I got ready to sit down with him, he'd been fired and was working for some outfit out on the coast that wasn't the least bit interested. And I was already moving to Florida, so.
So that really is that was your first and last?
No, it was I made a lot of little sport films. I went over to, what's the, RKO Pictures.
Right.
I had a boss there, brilliant man, 10 times smarter than I, but he spent money like it was nothing. And my job was to follow him with the yellow pad and write down what he was buying or selling that day. He lived very high. And he was the first one who came out with mobile trucks for news and stuff. And all I did was follow him around, for which he paid me well. And then one day they called me down and they told me they had fired him and I was replacing him. So all of a sudden I'm head of RKO Pictures. And they were out of the business. Howard Hughes had sold them his films, Gone with the Wind, all those things. And I'm boring you by now, aren't I?
Unbelievable. I'm right here. I'm right on. I love it. This is good history.
Well, I could tell you, as you see, I could go on and on. But I lived this history.
That's right.
There are few around who have. When I walked in that building, I was walking with Harriet Tubman. You didn't know it. But there I was, and I'm saying, she's done so much for the world, And nobody ever did a thing for her, you know. And I wrote my lawyer and told him he better look into my title, you know, owner of the thing. My son runs Channel 13 in Rochester. And whenever I need a tape, he makes me a new one. But as a matter of fact, I've got a couple of tapes here. I don't know the condition of them, but if you want, I'll loan you one, and if you're a good boy, you can have it.
I would love to see it.
You're my best friend. I know where we are now. We hide the rest of the day, then tonight we can reach Pennsylvania. Which one is it? That one. Where? Just follow my finger. See it? No, where? Just look. Sky's full of stars. Keep your hands, sir. That's the Big Dipper over there. And those are the stars in the handle. Just follow the last two, and it'll point you to the North Star. See it? After those two? That one over there? That's it. That's the North Star, eh? That's her. Always in the same place? It better be. It's taking us home. Boy, don't you look like some kind of mess. Where's Mr. Folsom? Oh, probably somewhere behind us. How's your foot? I think I can stand. Try. Come on. We gotta keep going, Ben. This man, he on a sleigh? Yeah. I can't go in there. There's no other place. He's a slave owner. He helped me. He can do it again. You don't know him. They're all together. You all right? Yeah. Slave owner's house. Nothing easy with you. Come on. right. You go on.
Don't think so.
Pennsylvania's right down that road. You can make it.
That foot you got, that's gonna get you in trouble.
I can take care of myself.
I see.
I said for you to go.
Say, you talking to me like I was a slave?
Well, Master Runaway, are you at it again?
Please, sir. May I and my friend come in?
Where the devil did you come from?
It's his foot, sir. It's all twisted.
Come on, let's get you inside.
My friend, sir.
Come in, boy. Make sure you wipe your feet well. And close that door.
Benji!
That's who it is. He's twisted his foot. You better see to it. I met you and gave you the kindness of this home, and you left without a thank you or a goodbye. Now you throw it back in our faces.
They need some hot food in their stomachs, too.
Where did you find this one? You're not very careful about your traveling companions, are you? What lie are you going to tell me this time, boy? Disappearing like a ghost, and now you're back. You're trouble, all right. Tell me what this is all about, boy. You better tell me right now.
We can just stay tonight, sir. We'll sleep in the barn.
Boy, what's out that window makes you so interested?
No, sir.
You came from up north and you were alone. Now you're going back and you got this slave boy with you. Don't expect you got any ownership papers. So let's say what I didn't want to believe, but what I have to. This boy is a fugitive.
Matthew, let me see.
You had no right to come here. You're running from the law.
But they're only boys.
Don't you understand? If they're found here, we're as guilty as they are. Haven't you seen what's been happening? Too many of them been escaping, and they're gonna try and put a stop to it. It's like a war. Every man's got a gun, and he's within his rights to use it. Well, boy or no boy, this here's an escaped slave, and this one helped him to run.
I don't want any trouble for you, sir. I only came because you were kind to me, and I felt it'd be all right here for David. You had a slave, but you weren't like the others.
Well, I wouldn't want one of mine to run away. And if that's all right for me, then it's all right for another man, too. That's a law. You hear me, boy? The law, and you gotta live by it.
My father says there's a law of God, and in it, all men have to be free.
Not in this world, boy. Not in this world. You can't count on it. A man can't give up what he's worked for.
We'll go away, Mr. Kraft. We don't want anything to happen to you because of us.
Be quiet. You do as I tell you. You looking for something?
Mr. Kraft?
Yes?
Wonder if you could help me, sir. I'm looking for two boys.
I've no children, sir.
Nothing to do with your family, Mr. Kraft. One of these is a fugitive boy, and the other's helping him to escape.
What makes you think they've come this way?
Because I've traced them this far.
Sorry.
If you should see them...
I don't expect to, sir. Good day.
Matthew, there he is.
You two be quiet back there. Come on. Come on.
Nice day for visiting, Mr. Kraft. That's a lot of stuff you got there.
Uh-huh. You find those boys you're looking for?
No, but I'm getting close.
What brings you out this way?
Any wagon headed towards Pennsylvania interests me.
Some back there interest you?
Maybe.
Guess I'm gonna have to disappoint you then. Just nothing back there to talk about. I said nothing. You're gonna have to take my word for it. My word's important to me. Any objections, Mr. Folsom?
All right, boys.
Well, there's the border, Pennsylvania.
Mr. Kraft, sir.
You better be on your way. Once you get across that line, you'll be safe enough. Come on.
Never met no man like you before.
Well, you better not see me again, either of you. What are you waiting for?
Twisted a little. This here's
David. Yes, I know. Welcome, boy. And you went for him all on your own. That took courage, Benji. David, your mother's waiting for you up in Canada. I don't think she'd have too hard a time getting you there, too. Come on, let's go in the house. I'll give you a lift. All right, Benji?
Yeah.
I knew we had a couple of questions and maybe some comments, so Aaron, join us again.
Thank you for watching. There were so many things I wanted to tell you.
Hey, Aaron, you got behind the microphone.
Oh, this will be
Mildred can hear you, but not everyone.
She knows it by heart. So many things I wanted to tell you guys. For one thing, the only instruction that I got from the American Broadcasting Company was make sure it will appeal to the children from 8 to 14. Now, this is the first film I ever made. I had made some tapes before and been pretty lucky with them. But this film, the New York Times, the next day, now I don't know how many of you guys know, but that's just about the world's largest newspaper, wrote such a wonderful article about this on the fact that it should be played instead of in children's time in the middle of the network where the whole family could sit together and enjoy it and ask and answer questions. And that's what happened. If we were back home, I show this all week long. My complete corps of workers are helping me, and their name is Mildred Beckwith, my wife, who came up there, did my laundry, and went home. But it took off. If you were to, right now, kids, all over the world, in Russia, they're watching this picture done in Russian. How you say you all in Russian, I don't know, but they find ways. In South America, any country you go to there, Japan ran it a couple times on its network, and in Japanese. Now, that's what it does, but here's what I want from you. How many of you guys, you kids, like the picture? Raise your hand. All right. There's a little girl sitting right there. I don't know. I'm pointing to somebody. Tell me what you like the most about the picture. Okay. What I do when I show this picture in around Florida where I live is every person who watches that picture in school, and I have as many as 600 watching. I remember the number 600 because I couldn't believe it. But they watch it and then they write me a letter. And I don't care what they write. They like this part of the picture, this or that. But before they write that letter, they have to talk to somebody within that week whom they didn't know. Now, I don't care whether their color is brown, black, yellow, white, whatever they are, blue. Just sit down and write a letter. And Mrs. Beckwith and I used to get hundreds and hundreds of those letters that the teacher forwarded to us. I don't think I have the right to ask you for a letter here because your school term is over. But I want you to remember some of the great lines in this picture. When he turned to this man, David, remember on the top of the hill? And he turned to him and he said, I never knew a man like you. You've got to meet people, kids. And when a new boy comes to your class, or when an old woman needs help across the street, promise me that if you can, and this week, you will help them some way or the other. And I'll tell you, we got a letter last week from, I don't know where it was from, no. But this girl wrote that there was a girl down the street whom my mother did not want to come into our house. She didn't know her, but she didn't want her to come in. Well, I did what I promised you I would. I went and I talked to her. And now she came to my house with me. And now she is my mother's favorite.